June 29, 1992 Observer Newsletter. SummerSlam 92 tickets. 1992 World Business Breakdowns. Beach Blast by Observer staff. June 29, 1992. WCW Beach Blast. Thumbs up with 162 votes, 73.3%. Thumbs down with 17 votes, 07.7%. In the middle with 42 votes at 19.0%. Best match poll. 1. Sting vs. Cactus Jack 146 votes. 2. Rick Rude vs. Rick Steamboat 49 votes. 3. Steiners vs. Terry Gordy and Steve Williams 21 votes. Worst match poll. Greg Valentine vs. Marcus Bagwell 105 votes. Ron Simmons vs. Taylor Made Man 18 votes. Steiners vs. Terry Gordy and Steve Williams 13 votes. 4. Rick Rude vs. Rick Steamboat 9 votes. WCW Clash of the Champions. Thumbs up 45 votes, 69.2%. Thumbs down 9 votes, 13.8%. In the middle received 11 votes, 16.9%. Best match poll. Liger and Pillman vs. Benoit and Wellington 46 votes. Williams and Gordy vs. Steiners 14 votes. Worst match poll. Gordy and Williams vs. Odays 27 votes. Ozzy and Nagami vs. Headhunters 13 votes. Freebirds vs. Silver Kings 10 votes. Based on phone calls and fax messages to the Observer as of Tuesday morning. Margin of error, 100%. Tickets for the WWF SummerSlam at Wembley Stadium in London, England went on sale this past Wednesday, and are believed to have set an all-time pro wrestling record for first-day ticket sales and possibly for first-day money sales as well. Original reports from within the business indicated that all 83,000 tickets were sold out in just 6 hours, which blows away any and all previous records for first-day sales. On the European television show on Sky Channel, which aired on Sunday, Sean Mooney during the event center announced that all tickets for Wembley Stadium had been sold out, but to stay tuned for new developments, which would be the announcement of the various closed-circuit sites throughout Europe. The Sky Channel show is sent from the US on satellite the previous Wednesday, where the day tickets went on sale, and normally taped a few days before that. Most likely the event center with Mooney making the announcement of all tickets being sold out was actually taped before tickets even went on sale, although that isn't necessarily the case. However, as of Monday, officials at Wembley Stadium said that Upper Deck, $22.50 US, tickets were still available and that between 60,000 and 65,000 tickets had been sold, which would be a phenomenal total for tickets being on sale just 6 days, but isn't a 6-hour sellout. While it is normally against all rules of promotion to announce a sellout when tickets are still available, since it tells people not to even make the attempt to buy the tickets, on the surface the sellout announcement, if it isn't the case, doesn't seem to make sense, although Titan did the same thing with the bodybuilding show in order to pretend like the event had some momentum and interest. Although clearly this event has so much momentum and interest in England, nobody needs to pretend. But it appears Titan policy seems to be to create the image of so much interest in the show live in order to sell the ancillary tickets, which in the case of the bodybuilding show were PPVs, and in the case of the wrestling show would be the closed-circuit sites. Tickets at Wembley were priced at $45, $31.50 and $22.50 US, with a sellout live gate scaled at approximately $2,160,000, which if / when all tickets are sold, would be the second largest money gate in WWF history behind the Hogan vs. Warrior WrestleMania from Sky Dome in Toronto, $3,450,000. The all-time record is believed to be $3,700,000 set this past January 4th for the Starrcade at Tokyo Dome combined New Japan/WCW show headlined by Tatsumi Fujinami vs. Riki Choshu. As far as quickest sales, the all-time record for first-day sales was set by the old Universal Wrestling Federation for its November 29, 1989 show at the Tokyo Dome, where it sold a reported 40,000 tickets and did $2 million in sales the first day. Almost surely the Wembley show sold more than 40,000 tickets on Wednesday, so that record was broken. A legitimate first-day sellout would have broken the $2 million mark and set a record, but it appears the real first-day total didn't break the UWS money record. When the WWF set the all-time attendance record for pro wrestling on March 29, 1987 in the Pontiac Silverdome with 90,817 paid, first-week ticket sales were around 23,000, so even though the show won't break that attendance record because it's in a smaller venue, it actually probably could have sold more tickets. The success of this show has brought on tremendous speculation to the future of the WWF being in Europe, with current gates generally below par and television ratings at an all-time low. The current plan is still to do 2 tours per year in Europe, although the success at Wembley has to whet the appetite for promoters in that part of the world to try and set up a European circuit. I don't foresee any abandoning of the United States, although if Europe can maintain this kind of an interest level, one would expect more shows there, which would mean either adding a new crew of wrestlers and creating a third troupe, at least at certain times of the year, or a slight decrease in US shows to make up for the more European date. We've got more details on the motorcycle accident involving Lex Luger, which at present doesn't appear to be a career ender, although at one point it looked like it possibly would be. Luger apparently lost control of his motorcycle and swung across the lane and was hit by an oncoming car, which hit and ran. Luger was thrown from the bike and suffered torn knee ligaments of a crushed elbow, torn groin and torn abdominal muscles. He was in the hospital in and out until the middle of this past week, but is already back in the gym training doing one-arm movements. Official hospital reports were kept confidential by Titan Sports. However, I believe Luger had 3 different elbow operations and had his knee scoped. Luger was treated by Dr. Jim Andrews in Birmingham, the same doctor who worked on Bo Jackson and most WCW wrestlers when they are injured, who told Luger that he came close to losing use of his right arm. Andrews told Luger that he'll be able to return to wrestling, and since Luger legally can't wrestle for the WWF until March, he has plenty of time to get back to 100% with little pressure. World Championship Wrestling's Beach Blast, its second show in an attempt to do pay-per-view shows 3 consecutive months, took place June 20th in Mobile, Alabama. The reaction to the show was generally positive. There was very little bad about the card. In fact, aside from the bikini contest, nothing was bad. There was nothing that blew one's socks off either, aside from the performances of both Cactus Jack and Sting in their match. The rest of the show ranged from solid, average matches to solid, good matches with little else memorable. The live crowd was approximately 4,000, or about a half-filled building, with the paid about $3,200 and the gate around $28,000. All of these are estimates. While it's too early to get anything but a rough estimate, based on reports we had heard before the event and sketchy reports since the event, the show apparently did worse on pay-per-view than the Wrestle War show on May 17th. That wasn't unexpected, as I'd been told before the event that WCW officials realized there was no way to pull off so many PPVs in such a short time period and would be happy with an 0.5 buy rate. Wrestle War's 0.6 was the record low. Based on very preliminary information received thus far, the buy rate doesn't look to have approached 0.5, which doesn't bode well for attempting yet another pay-per-view show in 3 weeks. Considering this show was bolstered by nice plugs in both USA Today and on Entertainment Tonight, both of whom interviewed Jesse Ventura, who seems to be the only WCW performer who can get that kind of attention, in the days preceding the event, it again shows that this is one uphill bat. 1. Scotty Flamingo won the WCW light heavyweight title from Brian Pillman in 1729. The match started slow and on the mat. Pillman took a big bump on his face off the top rope. It's hard to believe Pillman would climb up there and forget the rules to give Flamingo a heat spot, and Flamingo even did a lucha libre plancha dive over the top rope. Pillman sold well, but the match wasn't as fast-paced as you'd think. There was no differentiation between a light heavyweight style and what would be a heavyweight style in this match, even though it was a good match that opened the show on a strong note. The finish was good, with Pillman playing possum and Flamingo showboating by climbing the ropes. Pillman hit a backward superplex and then clotheslined Flamingo over the top rope. Pillman did a swan dive over the top rope. Flamingo moved and Pillman crashed face first on the ramp in the move that would have been the most memorable of the entire show had Cactus Jack not put on an insanity performance later. Flamingo got the pin with a weak-looking knee drop off the middle rope. 2 3/4 stars. 2. Ron Simmons pinned Taylor-Made Man in 7:09. Taylor took some good fast bumps and pretty much carried this to a decent match. They called 5 minutes at the 3-minute mark. This happened in most matches, and I can't figure out why they do that in matches like this where time isn't a factor to the fans. Simmons missed a tackle and flew onto the ramp, giving Taylor a short advantage. Simmons made a comeback and won with a Doug Furnace-like fast power slam. 2 stars. 3. Greg Valentine made Marcus Bagwell submit to the figure 4 leg lock in 7:15. Bagwell is still tentative in the ring but was trying hard. Valentine was slow but his moves were solid. Bagwell missed a knee drop at 3:40 and Valentine worked the leg for a few minutes. Bagwell got a short comeback, but the knee went out while doing a leapfrog and Valentine put him away with the figure 4. Match was fine since everything made sense and a babyface actually submitted, since they obviously need to get submission holds over if they are going to change to a serious wrestling style. 1 3/4 stars. 4. Sting pinned Cactus Jack in an explosive match, Falls Count Anywhere on the Gulf Coast, in 11:26. They never quite made it to the beach, but it was the match of the card. They started brawling on the ramp. Cactus took a backdrop on the ramp and a facebuster on the ramp. Sting crouched himself on the top rope when Cactus ducked a body block. Jack did an elbow off the apron, with no padding on the floor, ouch. Then a neckbreaker on the floor and a sunset flip off the apron to the floor. Jack took a backdrop over the guard railing and a suplex on the floor. This was one of the gutsiest and most insane performances I've ever seen. Jack started selling his knee. Jack gave Sting 3 chair shots to the back until Sting came back with a back suplex on the concrete with Jack landing on his head. Jack later missed a knee drop off the middle rope to the floor, injuring the knee once again. Sting came back with 3 chair shots, the third right on the knee, and went for the scorpion on the ramp, but both fell off the ramp to the floor. Cactus did a double arm DDT on the ramp, but Sting kicked out and came back with a clothesline off the top rope. Since this was no DQ, the move was legal, onto the ramp and pinned Jack on the ramp. Cactus Jack has a lot of guts, but you simply can't do matches like this very often and enjoy a lengthy career. 4.5 stars. 5. Rick Steamboat defeated Rick Rude 4 falls to 3 in the 30-minute Iron Man Challenge. The outcome was pretty well guaranteed when they announced it was a non-title match, which had never been made clear on television promotion for the match. This storyline of the match was pretty good, and both these guys are top-notch workers. Steamboat dominated the first fall, but Rude won with a knee to the chin as Steamboat charged in and held the tights for the pin in 7:42. Rude won the second fall in 57 with a Rude Awakening. Rude was disqualified in the third fall for intentionally coming off the top rope with a knee drop in 101. Rude went ahead 3-1 at 110 with an inside cradle. Steamboat cut the margin to 3-2 in 6:49 by reversing Rude's tombstone piledriver into one of his own in a really well done sequence. During the sixth fall, Steamboat did a superplex while standing on the top rope, which Rude kicked out of but eventually won with a bridge into a backslide in 2:43, which left them tied with just under 10 minutes left. Rude dominated the next fall with a sleeper, but with 35 seconds left in the match, 9:03 of the fall, Steamboat kicked off the turnbuckles and crashed backward onto Rude for the pin. This was ridiculous since they spent the entire show trying to get over that coming off the top ropes was illegal, and then Steamboat comes off the top rope to win the deciding fall. With 30 seconds left, Rude hit clotheslines and near falls one after the other until the bell sounded and Steamboat was declared the winner. 3.5 stars. 6. Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham and Nikita Koloff beat Steve Austin and Bobby Eaton and Arnold Anderson in 15:30 when Anderson was disqualified by referee Ole Anderson for coming off the top rope. Basically, the match was to get the top rope rule over once again, and psychologically turn it into a heel move since heels were DQ'd twice for using it on this show, plus get Ole Anderson over as a babyface ref by disqualifying his supposed relative. Rhodes and Austin worked really well together, and Eaton works better with one arm than most wrestlers do with two. Solid all the way, but nothing spectacular or out of the ordinary. 2.75 stars. 7. Rick and Scott Steiner retained the WCW Tag Team titles, going to a draw with Terry Gordy and Steve Williams, which lasted 28-22 and was announced at 30 minutes. It was both a good match and a bad match. For people who have watched Japanese tapes and are fans of amateur wrestling and actually understand the moves they were doing, it was pretty watchable. It was evident from seeing the fans live give no reaction to anything except weak pops for Steiner's comebacks, that the fans first have to be taught that these moves work and see different moves like crabs, arm bars, spinning toe holds, etc. used as winning holds before fans see them as anything but boring mat work. Fans also have no idea what to make of Gordy and Williams. They are obviously not faces, but have never been pushed as heels except for that ridiculous Japanese costuming which fans didn't seem to react to. The wrestling itself was solid all the way through, although Gordy and Williams sell a lot better than the Steiners. The stuff off the mat was hard-hitting. As a foundation for the feud and to establish Gordy and Williams as a team on par with the Steiners, and capable of beating them as the Clash showed, this was probably a good idea to do the Broadway, but it left the show ending on a flat note. 3.25 stars. The only non-wrestling on the show consisted of just 2 interviews, one with Ron Simmons, which was okay as they try and groom him for the top, the other with Steamboat, in which Cactus Jack attacked him to start their marriage, and the bikini contest. Those type of things are either hits or misses, and even though both women were in great shape, as in great shape, it was a miss because Johnny B. Bad couldn't carry his role, and in the final round, Jesse Ventura's help fell flat. I'm not against doing skits or comedy between serious matches because you need a change of pace in between hard-hitting matches, but this didn't come off well and really came off as a desperation tactic from start to finish. First, they came out in evening gowns, then Medusa came out in a one-piece and Missy in a two-piece, and finally Medusa in a two-piece and Missy in a two-piece, which was supposedly from the head wrap on Ventura's head. Missy was the babyface here, so they raised her hand when it was over, and then said the results would be announced on the television show the next day, which seems like something that wouldn't set well with people who paid $19.95 to see the show, but at least it was announced on a free television show. They said fans would decide on the 900 number, but then did a pretty sleazy con late in the show by announcing that Medusa was ahead 51 to 49% since Missy was the face, in a way to encourage more brainless people to call for Missy, thinking one vote could make a difference. There were a lot of complaints about ending the show with the DQ finish and the non-finish draw, and that they should have put Sting vs. Cactus on last because it hurt Rude and Steamboat to try and follow them. In this case, hindsight is 20/20, because given what was planned, there was no other way. They wanted the last view of Cactus to be him brawling with Steamboat rather than being laid out and pinned, so that angle had to take place after his match. The deal with Cactus attacking Steamboat, which didn't come off as anything special, just another angle, was supposed to be with Steamboat exhausted after that grueling 30-minute match. So neither of those matches could finish the show, which left Gordy and Williams versus Steiners, which on paper looked to be good enough to finish. Overall, there isn't much to say negative, since little about the show was bad, but there was also little that was spectacular as compared with previous shows. With the exception of Sting Cactus, nothing else was a must-see, and in the current market conditions, for pay-per-view shows to thrive as they have in the past with all the new competition on pay-per-view, shows have to come off as must-sees to be very successful. Still, attempting that many big shows in such a short period of time is just about impossible, although the decision wasn't made by the present regime, or even the wrestling regime. The Clash of Champions taped June 16 at McAllister Fieldhouse in Charleston, South Carolina, and aired on TBS on June 21, drew a near full house of about 4,600, about 2,500 paid, but with low ticket prices of $10, $6, and $3. For kids, the gate was probably in the $20,000 range. For the first round of the NWA Tag Team Tournament. 1. Steamboat and Koloff beat Joe and Dean Malenko in 9:50. Both brothers worked well, trading arm drags and hip tosses with Steamboat, but not as well with Koloff. The Malenkos missed a few spots and didn't do any of the hot moves they use in Japan. Koloff gave each one a sickle and pinned Dean. 1 3/4 stars. 2. Rude and Austin beat Bagwell and Tom Zenk in 7:54. No heat at all, which I guess says something about Dangerously, since he wasn't at ringside. It was all action and everything was decent. Bagwell missed a dropkick and Rude pinned him with the Rude Awakening in kind of a one-sided match. It seemed like most fans were cheering Rude and Austin's win. 2 stars. 3. Williams and Gordy beat Jeff and Larry O'Day in 2:35. Just a quick squash. Jeff was pretty green and Larry looked ancient. The reason they used the O'Days is because Larry is one of the members of the NWA Board of Directors, so it was just a political favor. 1/4 star. 4. Rhodes and Wyndham beat Anderson and Eaton in 10:23. Good match. Rhodes kicked out of what looked to be a pin after Eaton hit a knee drop off the top rope. Top rope was legal on this show because they were under NWA rules. Anderson, who wasn't the legal man, hit Rhodes with the spinebuster and Eaton covered him, but he kicked out again. Eaton missed the Alabama Jam and Rhodes pinned him with the Bulldog. 3 1/4 stars. 5. Freebirds beat Silver Kings, Los Efectivos, formerly Los Cowboys in Mexico, in 6:28. What a mess. Everybody tried, but the styles clashed and it looked pretty bad. It would be hard enough for any team that didn't have experience in Mexico to work a hot match with these guys, but the Freebirds can't even work their own style, let alone anyone else's. Finish saw Silver King number 1 Cesar Gonzalez, who wrestles as Silver King in Mexico, come off the top rope with an elbow drive, but Hayes moved and it hit his partner, who wrestles as El Texano in Mexico, Juan Aguilar. Hayes pinned him with an inside cradle. With all the timing and positioning problems, it looked like all four were just happy to get the thing over. Obviously this result was changed by Bill Watts. 1/2 star. 6. Jushin Liger and Brian Pillman beat Chris Benoit and Biff Wellington in 11:30. Not a match of the year, but still a very good match. Liger and Benoit weren't at their best, but both still looked very good. The fans just didn't know how to react to Benoit and Wellington early, but they did eventually get into the match, one of only 3 matches on the show that can be said for. There were a lot of hot moves in this one, including Pillman suplexing Wellington over the top rope to the floor, Wellington missing a plancha dive, Benoit taking an incredible bump off a backward superplex by Pillman, Liger doing a crossbody off the top rope to the floor on Wellington, Liger reversing Benoit's backward superplex off the top rope, and the highlight being Liger's Asai moonsault onto Benoit, who was on the floor. Pillman and Benoit also traded stiff chops on the floor several times during the match. Wellington screwed up a few spots at the end, including messing up the backbreaker right before Liger's moonsault on him for the finish. 3 3/4 stars. 7. Hiroshi Hazi and Akira Nagami beat the imposter headhunters, Bob Cook and Joe Cruz, in 5-10. The real headhunters no-showed, with the reason being given that since they work for Wing in Japan, for political reasons they didn't want to do a job for a New Japan team. Nagami did a ninja gimmick similar to Great Muta. He really didn't look good here, and it didn't matter anyway because the crowd wasn't into this match at all, even though all four guys kept it moving and it was never actually bad, but the crowd didn't want to see it. Hazi pinned one masked guy with a Northern Lights suplex while Nagami did a German suplex on the other, called simultaneous German suplexes by Jim Ross, which came off bad because even if you don't know the names of the moves, it was obvious the two guys were doing different moves. 3/4 of a star. 8. Gordy and Williams beat the Steiners in a second-round match in 15:01. They changed the original bracketing for the tournament, flip-flopping the Pillman Liger vs. Benoit Wellington match with the Gordy Williams vs. O'Days match at the last minute in order to create this situation. During the show they did a storyline where it was never exactly explained, but I guess we were supposed to think that the Puerto Rican team got into an auto accident and somehow the accident was caused by Gordy and Williams, since Gordy and Williams wanted to wrestle the Steiners this night, since the second round was scheduled for July 12th. But that wasn't really made clear since Bill Watts did an interview announcing this match and talked about an auto accident that may not have had an auto involved, trying to make sense out of that, and intimated that Gordy and Williams mugged the guys and that's why they were getting the match with the Steiner. Of course wrestling has poetic license, but think about making sense out of that in an organization which just added strict rules. I believe Miguelito Perez and Ricky Santana were told not to come so they could run this angle. Anyway, Watts said they were having jurisdictional problems with the NWA, which wanted to hold off the second round until the pay-per-view, but that they were putting this match on because they want to give the fans what they paid for, and in this case, more than they paid for. And the president of the NWA, who was never named, but the last president of the NWA was Jim Herd, so I guess this was just some inside humor. May I resign over this? This was a much better match than the pay-per-view match. They did a lot of amateur wrestling, and at one point with Williams and Rick it could have passed for an amateur shoot. This was a pretty good foundation match in that it accomplished getting over working holds, since Scott's knee was taken out with an STF and a knee-lock submission by Gordy. They did a near fall where Williams press slammed Scott and turned it into a power slam for a near fall. Finish saw Scott go for a belly-to-belly on Williams, but Gordy clipped his knee from behind and Williams fell on top for the pin. The crowd looked a combination of POD and outright shocks seeing the Steiners lose and be eliminated. 4 stars. I gave this show a thumbs in the middle. There was some of the greatest wrestling talent in the world on the show, but it wasn't utilized properly in several cases to take advantage of that talent. More importantly, none of the outside talent was promoted worth a damn, as evidenced by the crowd not reacting to any of it. Hopefully everyone learned that you can literally take the best wrestler in the world, and arguably Hazi is, and if you don't push him on television in an effective manner, you can put him in an arena and people won't react one bit to him, unless he does suicidal moves like Liger, who can get over in any setup. The final match was very good both in and of itself and as the beginning of an education process, which has a long way to go, as was the Liger/Pillman tag. Everything else looked like television matches, although not bad television matches. Rhodes and Wyndham vs. Anderson and Eaton looked like their typical pretty good syndicated television main event match. They announced that they would be doing the NWA Singles Tournament after all in Japan from August 6 to August 12, and announced the entire Dangerous Alliance would be entered as singles competitors. Sting did an interview talking about Big Van Vader, which got a nice pop but was forgettable. Ron Simmons did an interview as well with Harley Race and Super Invader, Hercules, coming out, and he cleaned house on both of them. Love seeing Race take those picture-perfect bumps. The interview with Simmons looked like the exact same interview they do every time they try to push him to the top with the subtle racial remarks by the heels, and the first black world champion talk by himself and the announcers. It seemed like almost the exact same angle they did in the September Clash, except there was no contract signing or table for Simmons to dive across, no Lex Luger, no Dusty Rhodes, and Simmons was better dressed. This leads to the Bash on July 12. I expect a few matches added to the show besides Sting vs. Vader and the tag team tournament matches. The bouts, unless they change the bracketing again, look like Steamboat and Koloff vs. Liger and Pillman, with the winners facing Gordy and Williams on one side. The other side will be Rude and Austin vs. Rhodes and Wyndham and Hazi and Nagami vs. Freebirds, with the winners meeting in the other half. It sure looks like Gordy and Williams vs. Rhodes and Wyndham in the finals, and everyone would expect Gordy and Williams to win, and given that fact, I'd say it's not a sure thing. You've got to figure they'll do something to add the Steiners to the card, because it seems ridiculous not to have them somewhere on a pay-per-view show. How's this for an idea of art imitating life? Have them go to a judge in Bay City, Michigan and get a restraining order allowing them to compete in the tournament, and the dreaded NWA president could rule that everyone else in the tournament will be banned if they compete against them, and Watts can stand up for the Steiners and do another hot interview. Television ratings for pro wrestling once again hit an all-time low for the weekend period of June 13th to June 15th. The average of the various wrestling shows was slightly lower than the depth set several weeks back. The two WWF shows, Prime Time, 2.0, and All-American, 1.7, drew a combined rating lower than at any time in history. WCW didn't fare any better, with World Championship Wrestling, the first Bill Watts show, falling to a 1.8, while Main Event did a 2.0, and Power Hour, the lone show that for unexplained reasons had stayed strong while all other shows were dropping. These decreases are also mirrored in syndicated ratings for both groups, and come September, with an increase in the number of paid commercial programs in Saturday morning time slots that wrestling has in many markets, combined with weakened ratings, both groups will be hard-pressed not to wind up with a significant weakening of their syndicated television network. Murray Hodgson's deposition in his lawsuit against Titan Sports for breach of contract took place on Thursday at the Titan offices. Hodgson was also countersued this week by Vince McMahon, claiming mainly, among other things, that Hodgson's public statements have damaged the reputation of Titan Sports. If Hodgson has been lying, certainly that is true. If he's not, then it may simply be a legal maneuvering to up the legal costs for him and attempt to force a surrender from him because he can't afford the battle, since obviously Titan can outlast anyone this side of Ted Turner in piling up legal costs. There is currently a court order against releasing any information that was said at the depositions to the media. Depositions for McMahon, Pat Patterson, et al. have still not taken place, nor is there a scheduled date for them. Titan head Hong Cho's McMahon and J.J. Dillon also had meetings this week with Antonio Pena, head of the AAA promotion in Mexico, about talent exchanges and co-promotion ventures. Titan has had its eyes of promoting live shows in Mexico City, since it draws more fans per year to pro wrestling than any city in the world. Unlike other Mexican promoters, Pena has his eyes set on expansion into the United States in cities with large Spanish-speaking populations in the Southwest. Pena's enthusiasm has been sparked by the success of the Lucha shows over the past 5 weeks in Los Angeles. What was agreed to in the meeting is that the groups won't be doing any combined shows in the near future, but that there may be some limited talent exchanges. AAA will help Titan run a show in Mexico City, while Titan will help AAA run shows in a few southwestern cities in the United States. Conan of AAA, after several false starts, will debut as a masked wrestler with a Jushin Liger-like costume with WWF at the July 20th and July 21st tapings in Portland, Maine, and Worcester, Massachusetts, although I doubt he'll use that name. In addition, the WWF wanted to book the Mexican midget wrestlers, and they could be brought in as early as the end of the summer. Looking at this from a strictly business standpoint, the following is a look at key economic indicators in the wrestling business during 1992, and also a comparison between the business this past month, May, with the same period in 1991. We're using the WWF, WCW, All Japan and New Japan for comparison figures as the 4 major promotions. While the offices in Mexico probably draw more paid attendance, not necessarily on average, but in total because they run far more house shows than any of the aforementioned offices, we don't have reliable figures from that country. Figures were compiled by data from this newsletter. In the case of All Japan and New Japan, the attendances used are the promotion's announced figures, which, having attended both major and spot shows from both groups, appear to generally be accurate, although they may be slightly inflated. While I'd estimate about $38 as the average ticket price for a regular show, higher for major cards, because the attendance figures don't differentiate between paid and freebies, both groups are fairly liberal in freebies, and because they do have corporate discounts for the shows in many cities. For purpose of making an attempt to be as accurate as possible in ascertaining grosses, we'll figure a $33 average. For WWF and WCW, these are based on paid attendance figures we've obtained from shows which we've received reports which should be assumed to be accurate to slightly exaggerated on an individual basis, but the total averages should be a decent amount higher than the real averages, since it is more likely we get correspondence reporters from the higher attended show. However, from a comparison standpoint of month to month or this year to last year, they should be very accurate barometers. We'll figure a $12 per ticket average last year and a $13 average for this year for WWF and for WCW, an $11.50 per ticket average last year and through the end of March for this year, and a $9 average since ticket prices were lowered using April as a switchover point. House shows used as television tapings are not included unless we have paid gate figures, since so many free tickets and reduced price tickets are given away for tapings by both promotions. For television ratings, we're using Prime Time and All-American for WWF and Main Event and Saturday Night for WCW. We aren't including Power Hour since it's a throwaway show and the time slot isn't conducive to the rating to be a fair estimate of an interest level. For pay-per-view show revenue, the figure is the approximate amount of money the company grossed from the show, as opposed to the actual gross of all pay-per-view revenue. January 1992. WWF. Estimated average attendance, 6,580. Estimated average gate, $85,500. Percentage of house shows sold out, 5.0. Average cable television rating, 2.5. Major show, Royal Rumble, 17,000 fans, estimated $210,000, estimated 1.8 buy rate with a $3.3 million gross. WCW. Estimated average attendance, 2,120. Estimated average gate, $24,400. Percentage of house shows sold out, 11.8. Average cable television rating, 2.7. Major show, Clash of Champions, 5,500 fans, 2,000 paid, estimated $24,000. 3.7 television rating. New Japan Pro Wrestling. Estimated average attendance, 3,280. Estimated average gate, $108,200. Percentage of house shows sold out, 100.0. Average television rating, unavailable. Major show, Starrcade 92 at Tokyo Dome, 60,000 fans, 56,000 paid, $3.7 million gate, 12.9 television rating. All Japan Pro Wrestling. Estimated average attendance, 3,000. Estimated average gate, $99,000. Percentage of house shows sold out, 50.0. Average television rating, 6.7. February 1992. WWF. Estimated average attendance, 6,240. Estimated average gate, $81,100. Percentage of house shows sold out, 0.0. Average cable television rating, 2.5. Major show, Fox Network Special, 8.2 rating. WCW. Estimated average attendance, 2,090. Estimated average gate, $24,100. Percentage of house shows sold out, 6.3. Average cable television rating, 2.4. Major show, Wrestle War, 5,000 fans, 4,000 paid, $67,000, 0.96 buy rate / $1.7 million gross. New Japan Pro Wrestling. Estimated average attendance, 4,090. Estimated average gate, $134,800. Percentage of house shows sold out, 87.5. Average television rating, 6.7. AJPW. Estimated average attendance, 2,090. Estimated average gate, $68,800. Percentage of house shows sold out, 57.1. Average television rating, 4.7. March 1992. WWF. Estimated average attendance, 6,690. Estimated average gate, $87,000. Percentage of house shows sold out, 0.0. Average cable television rating, 2.6. WCW estimated average attendance, 2,660. Estimated average gate, $30,600. Percentage of house shows sold out, 13.3. Average cable television rating, 2.5. NJPW estimated average attendance, 3,160. Estimated average gate, $104,100. Percentage of house shows sold out, 85.7. Average television rating, 8.1. Major show, 20th anniversary at Yokohama Arena, 18,000 fans, $1.5 million gate. AJPW estimated average attendance, 3,200. Estimated average gate, $105,600. Percentage of house shows sold out, 81.8. Average television rating, 4.4. Major show, Budokan Hall, 16,300 fans, estimated $850,000 gate. April 1992. WWF estimated average attendance, 3,570. Estimated average gate, $46,400. Percentage of house shows sold out, 0.0. Average cable television rating, 2.4. Major show, Wrestlemania, 62,167 fans, Paid estimated between $37,000 and $54,000, $1.25 million gate, 2.1 buy rate / $5 million gross. European Tour estimated average attendance, 9,750. European Tour estimated average gate, $215,000. WCW estimated average attendance, 2,340. Estimated average gate, $21,100. Percentage of house shows sold out, 12.5. Average cable television rating, 2.2. NJPW estimated average attendance, 2,890. Estimated average gate, $95,500. Percentage of house shows sold out, 50.0. Average television rating, 5.5. Major show, Sumo Hall, 11,500 fans, estimated $590,000 gate. AJPW estimated average attendance, 3,460. Estimated average gate, $114,300. Percentage of house shows sold out, 55.6. Average television rating, 4.2. May 1992. WWF estimated average attendance, 4,150. Estimated average gate, $53,900. Percentage of house shows sold out, 0.0. Average cable television rating, 2.1. WCW estimated average attendance, 1,790. Estimated average gate, $16,100. Percentage of house shows sold out, 0.0. Average cable television rating, 2.1. Major show, Wrestle War, 6,000 fans, 5,000 paid, $72,000, 0.61 buy rate / $940,000 gross. NJPW estimated average attendance, 2,710. Estimated average gate, $89,500. Percentage of house shows sold out, 66.7. Average television rating, 7.1. Major show, 20th anniversary at Osaka Castle Hall, 15,000 fans, estimated $1.2 million gate. AJPW estimated average attendance, 3,715. Estimated average gate, $122,600. Percentage of house shows sold out, 100.0. Average television rating, 4.0. To see where we really are right now, the best way is to make a comparison between May of 1992, the last completed month, and May of 1991. WWF house show attendance from that period last year was 36% higher than it is now, though higher ticket prices have cut the decline in box office revenue from this point this year and last year to 31%. A percentage of the decline can and should be attributed to Hulk Hogan not being there. But not the entire decline, since Hogan didn't work a full schedule and they ran 2 shows per night. Television ratings, which are the best barometer of casual fan interest, during the same period have declined 16% from last year, which means that roughly half the decline at the house shows is due to a decline in interest in the lineups presented at the house shows currently, and the other half is due to lack of interest in WWF wrestling overall. However, the company shouldn't be hurting financially yet from this lack of interest because of such a strong first 3 months of the year at the box office, attributable in large part to the Hogan vs. Flair and Hogan and Upper vs. Flair and Justice run, along with an incredibly successful European tour. The company would be on pace to do about $53 million in total wrestling event produced revenue, combining live gates with projected pay-per-view and closed circuit revenue if they were to maintain the current average for the year, and projecting for a big SummerSlam in Europe. In reality, the real figure should be lower because it doesn't look like they can maintain their early year average, plus these numbers used are probably slightly high to begin with. But for the short-term future in this country, as in this summer, things don't look good at all. However, the company has so many international options available that if it can't turn things around in this country, it seemingly can make huge money overseas while cutting back somewhat in this country. If you remember, WCW was suffering through a dismal period at this point last year. Average attendance has increased approximately 13% from last May, which at least sounds like progress. But that figure is misleading. With the decrease in ticket prices, even though attendance has increased, the net result has been a 6% decrease in average live gate. Additionally, the scheduling of arenas by WCW under Jim Herd was disastrous at this point last year, with cities being booked constantly that made no sense, that often drew crowds of less than 1,000. At this point, the company has concentrated mainly on cities that it has a base in, so the horrible crowds of 300 to 700 aren't there anymore. However, in the core cities like Atlanta, the result has actually been a decline in attendance. Even with eliminating cities they had no business running, gates on an average have still declined. To make matters worse, even with a rapidly expanding pay-per-view universe, the company revenue from last May's Super Brawl pay-per-view show to this May's WrestleWar declined by approximately $360,000, so total wrestling event-produced company revenue declined approximately $380,000 with a month or a 23% business decline. At this rate, WCW is estimated to produce $11 million in wrestling event-produced revenue. But unlike the WWF, which relies on pay-per-view for less than 30% of its event revenue, and All Japan and New Japan, which don't even have pay-per-view, for WCW to reach this figure, slightly more than 50% of it will have to be produced by its 6 pay-per-view shows. WCW was beginning its most dismal television ratings period at this point last year, averaging a 2.0 for the month of May, which has increased 5% this year to a still weak 2.1. The basic reading on all this is that casual fan interest in WCW, which was at a weak level at this point last year, is basically about the same. Ditto interest in what is being presented at the arena. However, the big decline in revenue was mainly caused by interest in the WrestleWar pay-per-view show this year being substantially less than interest in last year's Super Brawl pay-per-view show, which has to do more with hype and the lineup presented because the decline was so large, and a lesser extent to the declining trend in pay-per-view. Another point these figures seem to show, and this is going to make me very unpopular with wrestling fans for saying this, but that the decline in price initiated by Kip Fry appears to have been a major mistake. Although many other factors come into play, such as the main event on the card, time of the year, etc., WCW averaged 250 more fans paid per house show when tickets in most arenas were mainly priced at $15, $12 and $10 as opposed to the sliced $12, $10 and $7 scale now the rule. In addition, the February Super Brawl pay-per-view show drew approximately 55,000 more orders at a $24.95 list price as WrestleWar did with a $19.95 list, and more importantly, earned the company an estimated $760,000 more just on the launch, which at the current pace is equivalent to roughly 2 months' worth of house show business. Both of these point out that lowering prices seems to have no significant effect on the number of fans who want to see the product. It is not the price tag or even the economy that has been WCW's problem, but simply the group has a limited audience interested in the current product. If anything, Super Brawl, which on paper had a strong lineup, shows that WCW's loyal fans will pay $24.95 just as quickly as they'll pay $19.95 to see what they believe is a good pay-per-view show. New Japan during May declined in average attendance from the previous year, but that's misleading because they were playing bigger arenas last year as they sold out 50% of their shows last year in May as compared with 67% this year, even though actual average attendance dropped by an average of 900 fan. Last May's big show, the Tatsumi Fujinami 20th anniversary card in Osaka, sold out the same building this year's show did with a gate just slightly lower. The fact that television ratings remain strong and the big shows almost always sell out with monster-sized gates means there is nothing on the horizon to worry about. The company, which has sold out 78% of its shows thus far in 1992, should do about $22 to $23 million this year in wrestling event-produced revenue. All Japan, on the other hand, showed a marked increase from last May to this May of an average of 1,050 tickets per house show, or a 28% increase. That figure isn't misleading in any way because of all the shows selling out this year as opposed to 43% of the shows selling out at the same time last year. This promotion obviously couldn't possibly look in better shape because you simply can't improve on a 100% sellout ratio as they had last month, 68% for the year. Since All Japan runs a more regular house show touring business than New Japan, while it doesn't run as many big money megashows, just 4 per year at Budokan Hall, it should also gross $22 to $23 million this year in wrestling event-produced revenue. The decline of network television ratings since January shouldn't be viewed as anything serious since the numbers at 12:30 a.m. Sunday night still represent a phenomenal 45% share of the viewing audience. The ratings early in the year, with the 70-plus shares, were considered a phenomenon at the time. In syndication, the show is still among the highest-rated syndicated shows in Japan. Question of the week. In an effort to get readers' feelings on controversial issues regarding pro wrestling, we are going to attempt to do a question of the week. Not on a weekly basis but maybe every second or third week dependent upon reader interest segment. The first question is, if you were in charge of WCW, what wrestler would you pick to build a promotion around as the lead babyface? This person doesn't necessarily have to be someone within the organization, but limited to a viable candidate who the organization could reasonably get if needed. These questions should be answered during the period from the time you receive this issue up through Saturday, July 4th, either by letter, fax, or phone message, and the results will be tabulated and released in the July 13th issue. In that issue, we'll have another question. If anyone has a suggestion for future questions of the week and they are used, the person will receive 4 free months of The Observer added onto their subscription. The continuation of this feature is based on reader response. We aren't going to waste valuable space in an already crammed newsletter unless there is significant interest in this idea. Also, if there are any late-breaking news items or you have results and news of live arena shows that you have attended, you can leave a message on the recorder with the results at 408-379-8067. Fax messages can be sent to 408-378-6562 afternoon Eastern Time on a daily basis. You can also use those numbers to give your opinion on our questions of the week. AAA. Conan was expelled from Mexico, which was such a major news story that it was the cover story in the June 30th issue of Custodia magazine. This isn't the same as deported, but similar. Conan, who is an American citizen although born in Cuba, was working in Mexico on a work permit from Paco Alonso, the EMLL promoter. AAA promoter Antonio Pena was working on getting Conan's permit switched over, but Alonso managed to get him arrested and sent home before Pena could cut through all the red tape. What apparently will happen is that Conan will have to work in the US, which he was planning on doing anyway with the WWF, before he can start up with AAA. The same magazine, in its weekly Lucha Libre column, said that they expect many wrestlers to jump back to EMLL because they were unhappy with either the push or the money as compared to what they were either promised or expected. Sunday's television show was taped June 12th in Querétaro and was a pretty hot show as winners and Super Colo and Super Kiss, who was announced as being from Los Angeles, beat Attila Jr. and Bleda and El Picudo in an entertaining opener. El Apollo and Superstar and El Galactico beat Brazo de Platino and Super Bros, two younger brothers of the famous Los Brazos trio, and The Rose, who does an effeminate act with a wig, in straight falls in a match which ended with 5 straight dives. The younger Alvarado brothers did lots of Brazo spots. Super Brazo is about 5'4" and maybe 260 pounds of blubber but emulates Brazo de Plata in that he's pretty agile and has great balance although isn't as good overall. Next saw Los Destructors, Tony Arce and Vulcano and Rocco Valente, go to a double pin draw with Kendo Star and Angel Azteca and Solar. A main event was one of the better televised lucha matches of the year. I'd give it 3 3/4 stars, as Octagon and El Hijo del Santo and Perro Aguayo went to a DDQ with Fishman and La Parca and Blue Panth. Fishman pulled off Octagon's mask and Aguayo pulled off Fishman's mask, and the heel ref DQ'd Aguayo while the face ref DQ'd Fishman, and each team had their hands raised, and after the match Aguayo decked heel ref El Tirantes. I've never seen La Parca before, but he's getting pushed as the top heel in the group and he's a really good worker. Obviously Panther, Octagon and Santo are top-notch and Aguayo is a legend with great charisma. I never even thought Fishman was good 10 years ago, let alone today. The babyfaces in the opener, Winners and Super Kiss and El Colo, made a great ring entrance with female dancers doing a dancing gimmick. There was also great crowd heat here and a large portion of the crowd was cheering the heels. In fact, there was a large group together with a huge banner which read Rudos, which means heels basically, which they showed on the screen many times, totally different from US promoters, try to hide that some fans cheer heels let alone make a big deal about them doing so, and I don't think they'd show a banner that read heel. The heels played to those fans as well. June 19th in Puebla, which airs this coming Sunday, as Super Kiss and Super Colo and Winners beat Dr. Maldad and Mr. Maldad and Caras La Momia, Katana Leon Chino, and El Galactico and Superstar beat Ice Killer and El Tornado and El Molino via DQ. Los Destructors beat Azteca and Kendo Star and Solar in a rematch from this past weekend's television, and in the main event rematch, Panther and Fishman and Parca beat Octagon and Aguayo and Santo when Aguayo and Octagon were DQ'd for hitting Tirantes. They seem to be building up to an Aguayo versus Fishman hair versus mask match, which would be this group's first big gimmick match. El Espanto Jr., Rambo, Dr. Wagner Jr. and Love Machine, Art Bar, are the latest to jump from the other promotions, while Jonathan Holiday will be brought in from the US, and they are talking about using Johnny Legend from Los Angeles as a heel manager. EMLL. In order to combat AAA, which because of its being backed by Televisa, the largest television network in Mexico, this group and longtime rival UWA look to wind up working together. Weekly Pro Wrestling magazine from Japan reported last week that the Wrestling Union, which is also at odds with AAA since those wrestles formed their own union, has worked as the intermediary in getting the groups together, and will promote joint shows every Sunday through Tuesday to combat Triple. In addition, if and when the EMLL television show is kicked off Televisa, the two sides have a 5-year contract signed this past September, but it is expected to be breached shortly. The UWA's television show will feature both UWA and EMLL talent. EMLL is definitely off Galavision for good. Atlantis retained the NWA middleweight title, winning 2 out of 3 falls from Bestia Salvaje on June 16 at Arena Coliseo in Mexico City before a rare Tuesday night sellout of 5,100 via a third fall submission. Also, Liz Mark and Apollo Dantes and Mano Negra beat the new Infernales Satanico and MS1 and Parata Morgan, Polino and Kung Fu and Commando Russo beat Kato, son of Kato Kung Lee, and Huracan Sevilla and Cacho Mendoza and Guerrero Maya and Guerrero del Futuro and Damian Al Guerrero beat Espectro Jr. and Espectro de Ultra Tumba and Cadaver de Ultra Tumb. The June 12 Arena Mexico in Mexico City show, which was the first show in history to be headlined by a women's match, Bull Nakano becoming the first CMLL women's champ, beating Lola Gonzalez, drew a reported 10,000 fans, reported meaning probably a little exaggerated. The match saw them go to a double pin in the third fall, so they had to restart it to crown a champion, and in the fourth fall Nakano rolled through a flying body press, with a win in a total time of 29-29. Nakano has returned to Japan with the belt. June 19 at Arena Mexico saw Negro Casas and Espectro Jr. and Espectro de Ultra Tumba beat Dandy and Mano Negra and Ringo Mendoza in 2 straight falls, 2 3/4 stars. Liz Mark and Brazo de Plata and El Brazo drew Bestia Salvaje and La Fiera and Emilio Charles Jr. in a double pin in the third fall, 3-star. Far out and Canadian Vampire Casanova and Rayo de Jalisco Jr. beat the new Infernales 3 1/4 stars, and the main event was a hair versus hair match as Sangre Chicana won 2 out of 3 falls from Brazo de Oro when Bestia Salvaje interfered and hit Brazo de Oro with a Gima. 2.5 stars. Rayo de Jalisco Jr. beat El Egipcio on June 13 to win the Mexican heavyweight title. Pierre Roth Jr. retained his CMLL light heavyweight title against Liz Mark on June 13 in San Luis Potosi. A joint card which included wrestlers from all 3 promotions took place June 10 in Tlalnepantla and included Dandy and Vampire and El Hijo del Santo beating Connect and Blue Panther and Parata Morgan, and Los Villanos 4 and 5 and Gran Hamada beat Negro Casas and Rambo and Dr. Wagner Jr. The EMLL has a tour of Israel, Lebanon and in Jordan from June 26 to July 9 and is sending Rayo de Jalisco Jr., El Jalisco, Solar 2, Isla Solitaria, Ponzonia, Cacho Mendoza, El Egipcio, Lola Gonzalez and more. UWA. Villano 3 won the UWA World Junior Heavyweight title from the Killer on June 21 at El Torreo in Naucalpan. June 14 at El Torreo saw Villano 3 and Mel Mascaras and Enrique Vera beat Connect and Zando Khan and Killer when Villano 3 pinned Killer cleanly in the third fall to set up the June 21 main event. Mascaras pinned Connect in the first fall while Zando Khan pinned Mascaras to win the second fall. Also Los Efectivos, Silver King and El Texano and Canadian Tiger, Mike Lazansky beat Bull Payne, Rick Gantner and Miguelito Perez and Ricky Santana via DQ, and Payne gave Tiger a low blow to set up a feud between the two. The Ninja Turtles 2, 3 and 4, Ninja Turtle I is in Japan now wrestling as Rocky Santan, beat Ricky Boy and Scorpio Jr. and El Bucanero Jr. and the opener saw Rudy Reyna and Pimpinela Escarlata and May Flowers beat Kendo Star and Lasser and Momotaro, Monkey Magic Wakita. Correction from last week in that the Zeus who lost his mask didn't formally wrestle as Baby Richard but as Ray Richard. June 12 in Netzahualcoyot saw Connect and Wagner beat Perez and Santana 2.5 stars, Eddie Guerrero and Villanos I and 3 beat UWA Trios champs the Death Missionaries, El Signo and Niniro Navarro and Black Power 2, in a non-title match via DQ 1 3/4 stars, and Scorpio Jr. and Espanto Jr. and Cajos Jr. beat Ojo de Tigre and El Coloso and Canadian Tiger 1 1/2 star. Darrell Dixon, who some of you may remember as a headliner in New York in the early 1960s and in Los Angeles as a headliner in the early 1970s, and is a legendary wrestler in Mexico, was interviewed on the television show Tape This Night. Lasser kept the UWA lightweight title, beating Loco Valentino on June 14 in Gomez Palacios. The Can-Am Express, Dan Crawford and Doug Furness, retained on June 21 at El Torreo for 1 month and will feud with Los Efectivos over the UWA tag team titles. Their first main event is June 22 in Puebla, with Los Efectivos teaming with Villano 3 while the Can-Ams team with Connect. New Japan. The latest tour opened on June 18 in Utsunomiya for television tapings before a sellout 3,270 fans as Keiji Muto and Kengo Kimura upset Riki Choshu and Takayuki Iizuka when Kimura pinned Iizuka with 2 power bombs. Masa Saito beat Bam Bam Bigelow via DQ when Saito bit Ref Tiger Hattori's. Masa Chono and Shinya Hashimoto beat Killer B, Brian Blair and Scott Norton. The Wild Samoans, Samu and Kokina, beat Tatsutoshi Goto and Super Strong Machine. Black Cat and Samurai beat Pimpinela Escarlata and May Flowers, and Hiro Saito and Norio Onaga beat Kantaro Hoshino and Osamu Kid. Jushin Liger, Pegasus Kid, Chris Benoit, Hiroshi Hazi and Akira Nagami all missed the first taping because they were in the US for the Clash and returned for the June 20th Tokyo show. The Budokan Hall show, which included Steiners vs. Bigelow and Big Van Vader for the IWGP Tag Team titles, is this coming Friday night. June 19th in Katsumagara drew 2,350 as Choshu and Masa Saito and Hashimoto beat Samoans and Bigelow, B and Norton beat Muto and Kimura. Kat and Chono beat Escarlata and Flowers. Dodo and Machine beat Samurai and Kido, and Iizuka pinned Oniga. June 20th at Korakuen Hall in Tokyo before a sellout 2,100 saw Muto and Chono and Kimura beat Choshu and Hazi and Iizuka when Chono made Iizuka submit to the STF. Hashimoto pinned Nagami with a German suplex. Bigelow and Norton beat Samoans when Norton pinned Sam. Masa Saito beat B Machine and Goto, and Hiro Saito beat Liger and Pegasus Kid, and Hido and Kat and Samurai beat Flowers and Escarlata. June 21st in Yamato drew 2,310 as Samoans and Norton beat Choshu and Hashimoto and Hazi when Hazi did the job. B and Bigelow beat Chono and Kimura, Muto beat Hiro Saito, Goto and Machine beat Iizuka and Samurai. Liger and Hoshino beat Flowers and Escarlata, and Pegasus Kid and Masanobu Kurisu beat Koji Kanemoto and Kid. They announced Fujinami's opponent for his return to Japan on July 8 in Yokohama as Richard Bond, a karate fighter from the US. Jerry Gray is coming in July. Kunyaki Kobayashi and Shiro Koshinaka are said to have been fired for working the WMA card on June 9 in Nagoya, promoted by Masashi Aoyagi, who the two were feuding with in the Karate vs. Wrestling matches on the April 30th and May 1st shows. They aren't working for New Japan right now, but I'm betting this is just an angle. The Punisher, from PWA in Minnesota, Jimmy Backlund of Wing, and Wellington Wilkins Jr. of PWF all worked the same card, headlined by Aoyagi winning back the sign in front of his dojo by beating Kobayashi, and a match stopped because Kobayashi was bleeding so badly. Antonio Inoki has scheduled shows on September 4th and September 5th on two islands that formerly were part of the Soviet Union that are being given back to Japan using Americans Brad Rheingans, Bigelow and Bad News Allen, along with 4 Soviet wrestlers including Salman Hashimakov and Viktor Zangya. They also have shows booked on August 18th and August 19th at Queen Elizabeth Stadium in Hong Kong. The NWA tournament will take place on August 6th in Shizuoka, August 7th in Nagoya, and August 10th to 11th-12 at Sumo Hall in Tokyo. The Untouchables tag team, who come during the July tour, work for Windy City Wrestling. Television on June 13th drew a 6.4 rating. SWS. The final tour for the group, known as SWS, took place this past week. June 16th in Kumamoto before an announced 3,070 saw Genichiro Tenryu and Ashura Hara and Ultimate Dragon, Yoshihiro Asai, beat Jerry Estrada and Kimala and Jim Duggan when Dragon pinned Estrada, King Haku pinned Jim Powers, Samson Fuyuki and Takashi Ishikawa beat Tetsuya Yamanaka and Great Kabuki, George Takano pinned Goro Tsurumi, Naoki Sano pinned Archangel de la Muerte, Kendo Nagasaki and Apollo Sugawara beat Fumihiro Niikura and Don Arakawa, and Kenichi Oya pinned Hiroshi Hatanaka. Shunji Takano is out of action because of a car accident. Tatsumi Kitahara is also out of action with no reason given. This crew splits into two, with one group called Revolution and debuting on July 14th in Korakuen Hall, which will have Tenryu, Hara, Dragon, Haku, Fuyuki, Ishikawa and Kitahara, and also will have access to whatever talent WWF and EMLL sends. The other group, originally called Palestra, has already changed its name to Network of Wrestling, NOW. It is expected that Sano, who would have been that group's number 2 star behind George Takano, will instead jump to PWF, which means Now, which opens August 9th at Korakuen Hall, is destined to be a week independent. June 18th in Sasebo drew an announced 3,620 as Tenryu and Hara and Dragon beat Estrada and Kabuki and Haku in 24:48 when Hara pinned Estrada, Ishikawa and Fuyuki beat Kimala and Archangel de la Muerte. Sano pinned Powers, Oya and George Takano beat Tsurumi and Nagasaki Vaidiki. Duggan beat Nobukazu Hirai and Sugawara in a handicap match, and Arakawa pinned Hatanaka. June 19th in Nagasaki was the final SWS show before an announced 3,860 as Tenryu and Hara and Dragon beat Estrada and Kabuki and Haku, Fuyuki and Ishikawa beat Kimala and Archangel de la Muerte, George Takano DDQ Nagasaki, Sano pinned Oi, Duggan pinned Powers, Sugawara and Tsurumi beat Hatanaka and Niikura. All Japan. Billy Black and Joel Deaton have been taking off the next tour, which starts July 4th and replaced by Chris and Mark Youngblood. Gary Young also debuts in July. June 14th television show headlined by Jumbo Tsuruta and Akira Tao vs. Stan Hansen and Johnny Ace drew a 2.5 rating. The June 5 Korakuen Hall show, Tsuruta and Tao vs. Mitsuharu Misawa and Kenta Kobashi and Hansen vs. Toshiaki Kawada, aired on television this past Sunday. Jackie Fulton is going to get a regular gig as a masked wrestler and form a tag team with the Patriot, which means Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton will be put back together as the Fantastics for Japan. Other Japan notes. Universal Lucha Libre opened its tour on June 13 at Korakuen Hall before an announced 2,000 fans, where attendance was shy of capacity, as Sakigaki Gantetsu pinned Super Tigrito Little Super Tiger, a trainee making his debut. Rambo and El Engendro and Rocky Santana, Ninja Turtle #1 in Mexico for UW, beat Pantera 2 America in Mexico for EMLL, and Cyclone Ramirez and Robin Hood in 2113, Shu El Guerrero and Scorpio Jr. and Super Dolphin, Monkey Magic Wakita formerly in Japan and Momotaro in Mexico for UWA, beat Punish, Kiti Takayama, and Kra. Shoji Akiyoshi in Kendo Transformer in Mexico for UWA, and main event saw Los Villanos 4 and 5 work as heels and win 2 straight falls from Dos Caras and Gran Hamada. June 14 and Soka drew 1,200 as Gantetsu pinned Tigrito, Pantera 2 beat Santana, Punish and Kendo and Robin Hood beat Rambo and Engendro and Scorpio Jr., Dolphin pinned Ramirez and Hamada and Caras and Crush beat Villanos and Guerrero. June 15 and Soka drew 1,200 as Villanos and Engendro beat Kendo and Caras and Hamada, Scorpio Jr. and Guerrero won the UWF/UW.A. Intercontinental Tag Team titles from Punish and Crush, who split up as a team afterward, and Ramirez and Robin Hood and beat Santana and Rambo. June 16 and Amadon drew 1,100 as Kendo won a battle royal, Villanos beat Crush and Hamada, Punish and Kendo and Caras beat Rambo and Engendro and Dolphin, Santana and Scorpio Jr. and Guerrero beat Pantera 2 and Ramirez and Rambo. June 19 and Shimizu drew 1,500 as Crush and Caras and Hamada beat Dolphin and Villanos, Robin Hood won 12-man battle royal, Scorpio Jr. and Guerrero beat Punish and Kendo and Robin Hood and Pantera 2 and Ramirez beat Santana and Rambo and Engender. FMW opened on June 16 in Chiba before a sellout 2,284 as the Gladiator, Mike Alfonso and Sabu and Body Snatcher Luis Piccoli, beat Mr. Ganasuke and Atsushi Onita and Samba Asako in a street fight, Tarzan Goto and Great Punk, formerly the Shooter now unmasked, beat White African and Horace Boulder and the Sheik, legendary Ed Farhat, beat Ricky Fuji. June 18 and Higashimura drew a sellout 3,285 as Onita and Fuji and Ganasuke beat Snatcher and Boulder and Gladiator, Asako and Goto DDQ Sabu and Sheik and African pinned Punk. June 19 and Nagaoka drew a sellout 3,542 as Onita and Asako beat Gladiator and Boulder in a street fight, Ganasuke and Fuji and Goto beat Snatcher and Sabu and African and Sheik DDQ Punk. June 20 and Akita drew 4,377 as Onita and Asako beat Gladiator and Sabu, Goto and Fuji and Punk beat Boulder, and African and Snatcher and Ganasuke DDQ Sheik. June 21 and Akita drew 2,031 as Gladiator and Sabu and Boulder beat Onita and Asako and Fuji, Goto and Ganasuke beat African and Snatcher and Punk DDQ Sheik. FMW announced a September 19 card at the Yokohama Baseball Stadium, and most feel the headline match will be Onita vs. Tiger Jeet Singh, with Singh interfering in the Onita vs. Sheik match this week in Sapporo. Singh did a newspaper interview saying he'd never work for a poor independent group and he wasn't going to FMW, but most feel it's a work. FMW/WWA wrestler Genghis Khan, who lost his mask to Amigo Ultra, is Isaiah Rodriguez. All Japan Women sold out Korakuen Hall with 2,100 on June 21 with Tashio Yamada winning a non-title match from Manami Toyota in 26-22 on top, plus Bull Nakano returned from Mexico to team with Akira Hokuto and beat Takako Inoue and Kyoko Ino. Esther Moreno returns on June 21 and Terry Power debuts on that card. They will be holding the annual Japanese Grand Prix singles tournament, with the winner to get a shot at Nakano's WWA belt starting June 27 with the finals taking place August 30 at Korakuen Hall and the title shot with Bull most likely on September 17 at Oda Wardja. In the tournament are 2 groups. The Red League is composed of Asia Kong, Bison Kimura, Toyota, Suzuka Minami, Natsuko Mita, Mima Shimoda, Takako Inoue, Bat Yoshinaga, Tomoko Watanabe, and Cynthia Moreno. The Blue League is Yamada, Kyoko Inoue, Akira Hokuto, Yumiko Hata, Mariko Yoshida, Miori Kamiya, Seiki Hasegawa, Kwaro Ito, Debbie Malenko, and Esther Moreno. Each wrestler in each group wrestles each other with the Red and Blue League Championship matches on August 15 at Korakuen Hall, and the winners go to the August 30 card. Several upcoming title bouts announced, including June 27, Toyota and Yamada defend the WWWA and UWA tag titles against Hokuto and Kyoko Inoue in what should be one of those classic matches, plus Yoshida defends the Japanese singles title against Atsuko Meat. July 10 has Toyota defending the IWA title against Honda. July 15 in Tokyo's Ota Ward Gym has Toyota and Yamada defending the tag titles against Kong and Kimura. JWP has Devil Masami vs Dynamite Kansai on August 23 in Kyoto. USWA. June 15 in Memphis saw Eddie Gilbert win the Unified, as an AWA World Class, USWA and Global title from Jerry Lawler in the match where Gilbert said he's retire if he didn't win. Finish saw a ref bump, Gilbert threw fire at Lawler who ducked and the fire hit Burt Prentice. At that point Mike Samples, Global President, hit the ring and hit Lawler with a chain so Gilbert could win. The match had a no-return clause in it. Other results saw Jeff Daniels beat Candyman, and women's boxing tournament saw Lauren Davenport beat Miss Jennifer. Candy Kane beat Dominique and Davenport beat Kane. Mike Miller beat Tony Falk. Brian Christopher beat Billy Travis. Christopher beat the Hornet. Ron Oakes. Moondogs beat Jeff Jarrett and Pez Watley to keep the USWA tag titles, and Lawler and Jarrett and Hornet beat Moondogs Spot and Cujo and Richard Lee when Jarrett pinned Cuj. Moondog's Spike is gone, so there are 2 remaining Moondogs. Television was hot on Saturday with Eddie Marlin opening the show and announcing that he's bringing back Tom Pritchard and Tony Anthony, both of whom lost Loser Leaves Town matches because he said they lost the matches unjustly. I don't know what that means in regards to Smoky Mountain Wrestling since they were 2 of the top heels in the group, although SMW was scheduled all along to take a short break at the end of this month, so maybe they are only in temporarily, although they got a big push on television. Later Mike Samples came out and started arguing with Marlin, and Marlin said he was going to kick him out of the studio unless he signed an open contract to be a part of the USWA television show. Samples signed the contract. The problem here was the camera work was too much of a close-up and you could see on television that Samples was signing a blank piece of paper, and then Marlin said it was for a match with Lawler. Samples decked Marlin and several wrestlers came out. Dennis Corluzzo, WWA promoter in New Jersey, who has been sending in videos to Lawler's television talk show claiming Lawler had 2 illegitimate sons living in New Jersey, one of whom was Fred the Elephant Boy from the Howard Stern show, showed up at TV with Fred and his brother, who I think was his real brother, claiming they were Jerry's kids, and said their names were Brian and Kevin, which is funny because that's the name of Lawler's real-life sons, one of whom is Brian Christopher. Lawler said they weren't his kids and he was tired of it, and at that point Mike Doggendorf, a strongest man in the world contest competitor who wrestled for the PAFOS ICW group about 9 years ago, came out and jumped Lawler and they had a pull-apart. Gilbert is now proclaiming himself the new king. Before a Moondog squash, Marlin said that if the Dogs used a chair, they would be banned from television forever. Of course, the first thing they did was, you got it, used a chair. Announcer Dave Brown came away from the desk and told Richard Lee that the Moondogs were suspended. Lee tried to hit Brown with a chair, but color commentator Corey Macklin took the bullet and got hit with a chair. Moondogs and Lee beat up Macklin until Jarrett and Travis came out, and in the brawl, Travis juiced. Travis gave Spot one of the hardest guitar shots ever, reminiscent of the shot Jake Roberts took from Honky Tonk Man years ago, and Jarrett ripped Lee's pants off. Spot had a gigantic forehead cut from the guitar shot. Mike Miller did an interview and said he didn't come in all the way from Oregon to work opening matches. June 22nd in Memphis had Miller vs. Hornet, Davenport vs. Dirty White Girl Kim in a boxing match, Christopher vs. Pritchard for the Southern title, Lawler vs. Doggendorf, Moondogs and Lee vs. Jarrett and Travis and Watley, Gilbert vs. Anthony for the unified title, and Lawler vs. Sample. Victor Rivera Jr. has already left Smoky Mountain. Got a chance to see about a half dozen of this group's television shows. As a change of pace, they were some of the most enjoyable television shows I've seen. Basic downside of the group is they have no wrestlers with main event charisma, even though Jim Cornette's interviews are as good as ever and Dutch Mantel is one of the better color commentators. The babyface side is lacking as Brian Lee, SMW champ, just can't carry the ball at the top. The Fulton brothers, Tim Horner and Robert Gibson, all seem like nice enough normal individuals but lack star charisma. The bit with Ron Wright, Tony Anthony's manager, in a wheelchair begging for money on television to pay for his operation is great, as is Bob Armstrong as the slightly disheveled commissioner in a role somewhat similar to Bill Watts in WCW. Buddy Landell's interviews are also a bright spot. He did one about not being in the major leagues because his lips weren't pressed up against the rear ends of any big shots. That was a scream. They did videos to introduce the Heavenly Bodies where a guy named Phil Rainey, who I believe is a local sportscaster, came with Cornette to find his new tag team. Rainey did some of the best straight man stuff as every video ended with girls surrounding the guys and you couldn't see who they were. In one of the videos, Rainey and Cornette were in a limo going to the Body's training headquarters, which turned out to be a local Hooters nightclub, and the driver of the limo got them lost and Cornette got all frustrated at the driver whose name was heard and made an inside comment about him screwing things up. June 21st in Beckley, West Virginia saw the Batten twins beat Joe Kazana and Killer Kyle, Mark Kyle, Jimmy Golden beat Robert Gibson, Anthony beat Dixie Dynamite, Scott Armstrong, Horner beat Buddy Landell via countout, Lee beat Paul Orndorff via DQ and Heavenly Bodies, Stan Lane and Tom Pritchard beat Fantastics, Fulton Brothers. June 20th in Bluefield, West Virginia saw Gibson over Kazana, Anthony beat Dynamite, Horner pinned Landell, Bodies beat Battens, and Lee beat Orndorff via DQ. June 13th in Morristown, Tennessee saw Hector Guerrero pin Kazana 1/2 of 1 star, Dynamite pinned Kyle Dudd, Gibson pinned Golden 1 star, Horner pinned Landell 3 stars, Fantastics beat Pritchard and Cornette 2 stars, and Lee beat Anthony via DQ with Bob Armstrong as special ref, which ended with Landell and Horner in the ring 2 star. Here and there. June 21st in Caguas, Puerto Rico saw Rockin' Rebel beat El Exotico, El Corsario beat Heartbreaker Adonis, Cyclone Salvadorino beat Randy Rhodes, the Southern Rockers Rex King and Steve Dahl beat WWC Tag Champs Ron Starr and Doug Masters in a non-title match, Ricky Santana beat Abdullah Hussein via DQ when Fidel Sierra interfered. Lale pinned Sierra and Invader No. 1 and Dick Murdoch beat Carlitos Colon and Miguelito Perez. Kimberly Murphy hosts Wrestling Roundtable radio show on WCBM, 680 AM, out of Baltimore starting July 5th on Sunday nights from 7 to 8 p.m. Brian Blair, Ray Apollo, Ken Patera, Bam Bam Bigelow, Afa and Samu the Samoan just got back from a tour of the former Soviet Union. Win on July 19th at the Baltimore Original Sports Bar has the second round of the Win tournament at 3 p.m. with Max Thrasher vs. Neil Superior, AC Golden vs. Douglas Witherspoon plus Cream Team vs. Beauty and Beast, Adrian Hall and Morgus the Maniac, in a no DQ match, and Heidi Lee Morgan vs. Rusty the Fox Tama. Tony Capone's Nawa starts on Sports Channel America on July 5th with Craig DeGeorge, Rich Mancuso and Tony Rumble doing the announcing. It'll be a 2-hour weekly block with the Savoldi's EQ in the first hour. Aqua did television tapings June 18th in Tampa Sportatorium with highlights being Brady Boone double countout with Coconut Man, Dick Slater, Aqua champ, over Alan Iron Eagle, Mark Starr beat Ian Weston via DQ when Jimmy Backlund did a run-in and Star Riders beat Southern Posse and afterwards Terminators attacked Star Rider. Randy Thornton, who did some wrestling for New Japan as an NFL player in a mixed match last year with Hashimoto, is now playing in the Wolf. Former wrestler Ron Fuller's minor league hockey team in Cincinnati is changing from being AA to a AAA hockey team, and it's the best drawing minor league hockey team in the U.S. Best wishes to wrestling legend Buddy Rogers, who is recuperating from a mild stroke. Wayne Coulter promoted a few shows in the Bahamas, drawing about 200 per night with Junkyard Dog Tommy Rich and Steve Armstrong. Eddie Mansfield's IWF on June 19th in Winter Haven before 250 as Rob Van Dam beat Kevin Catlin 1 star, Firecat Brady Boone beat Java Rook 1/2 of 1 star, Tim Parker beat Chris Proctor 3/4 of a star, Randy Rhodes, not the same one as in Puerto Rico, and Firecat beat Nuclear Assassins Dud, Al Hardiman beat TV champ Cliff Anderson, Cliff Sheets, via DQ with Eddie Mansfield as special ref, and after the match Mansfield beat up Anderson, who juiced and is leaving the group. Mansfield has a TV taping on July 4th in Orlando with a tournament for the TV title. Main event saw Possessor Ned Brady and Stomper beat Blackjack Mulligan and Brett Cole 1 1/2 star. Southland Wrestling Alliance drew 81 on June 13th in Lawrenceville, Georgia using Mad Dog Joe, Joey Maggs Night Stalker, and main event saw Bruce Force beat the Blazers, Ray Lloyd and R.D. Swain. Craig Johnson of GWF TV fame debuted as heel manager for Force dressed in full leather and sunglasses and interfered, bringing in a chair for the win. National Championship Wrestling drew 120 fans on June 13th in Inman, South Carolina with Bambi over Peggy Lee Leather. Wahoo McDaniel beat Russian Assassin Hunter Thompson in a strap match, and Bambi won a blindfold battle royal, which included both men and women. Gary Wolf of the Pit Bulldogs ran a show on June 12th in Hamilton, New Jersey before 302 fans using Heavy Metal Maniac, J.T. Smith, Sandman, Crybaby Waldo, Larry Winters, Glenn Osborne, and headlined by Pitbull Rex beating Wild Samoan Samu. Wolf, Pitbull Spike, was supposed to team with Rex against Samu and Samoan Destroyer, but he broke his leg in an auto accident on June 10th. Pitbull Rex left this week for a 6-month European tour for Otto Wands. GWF on June 19th at the Dallas Sportatorium drew 185, with Kids Free So Paid was less than 100, as Steve Cox beat Ed Robinson, Thor over Chris Germany, Chaz Taylor and Terry Sims over Beach Boy Sean Summers, and Beach Bully Alex Porto via DQ. Johnny Mantel beat Bill Irwin in a loser leaves town ma. Tug Taylor beat Robinson. 4 beat Geekoid number 1 Dewey, formerly Awesome Kong. Beat Maniac Mike via count out, and Sims and Scott Putski and Cox beat Stephen Dane and Gary Young and Mantel. There were also 4 more matches, and somewhere in there Tug Taylor turned heel once again. Big D Pro Wrestling on June 21st in Dallas drew 118 as Young beat Rod Price using trunks. Action Jackson pinned Scott Braddock. Jimmy James beat Hurricane Mike. Dane pinned Summers. Sean Stevens won the Big D title from John Tatum when manager Freddie Fargo came off the top rope and hit Tatum with the title belt, and the tag title changed with Price and Tatum winding up with the belts from the Blackbird, Jackson and King Parsons. Parsons twisted his ankle legit the previous night working a show for Chris Adams, so Tatum backed out and Jackson put up the tag titles in the singles match. Tatum turned heel as he tripped Jackson to lead to the pin. June 13th in Washington, Pennsylvania drew 95 with Randy Lewis, Cody Michaels, Lord Zoltan and Dom DiNucci on the show. WCW. The Complete Great American Bash Tour, at least as far as I've got, will be July 1st in Macon, July 2nd in Huntsville, July 3rd in Chattanooga, July 4th in Baltimore, July 5th in Atlanta's Omni, July 9th in Norfolk, July 10th in Raleigh, July 11th in Richmond, July 12th in Albany, Georgia, July 16th in Augusta, Georgia, July 17th in Fort Bragg, July 18th at Charlotte Stadium, July 19th in Charleston, West Virginia, July 20th in Roanoke, July 23rd in Oklahoma City, July 24th in St. Joseph, July 25th in Kansas City, July 26th in Joplin, July 30th in Savannah, July 31st in Hampton, Virginia, August 1st in Philadelphia, August 2nd in Baltimore, August 5th in Raleigh, August 6th in Fayetteville, August 7th in Chicago, August 8th in Milwaukee, August 9th in Chattanooga, August 11th in Gainesville, Georgia, August 13th in Sarasota, August 14th in Fort Myers, August 15th in Jacksonville and August 16th at the Omni. Johnny B. Bad and Van Hammer were in England doing promo work for an October tour. There is no talk at all about Jake Roberts coming in anymore. The steroid PSAs have disappeared from television. Despite rumors to the contrary, relations with New Japan are in good shape since Bill Watts has had a long business relationship with New Japan American representative Hiro Matsuda dating back to Florida in the mid-1970s. El Gigante has been trying to get his job back as he's back in Atlanta. June 18th in Birmingham drew 1,600 as Junkyard Dog pinned Richard Morton, Ron Simmons pinned Cactus Jack, Dustin Rhodes pinned Bobby Eaton, Steve Williams and Terry Gordy beat Marcus Bagwell and Tom Zank. Steve Austin drew Barry Windham to keep the TV title. Rick Rude won 2 of 3 falls from Rick Steamboat, best match, and Sting pinned Arnold Anderson to keep the WCW title. June 19th in Montgomery drew 1,100 as Dog pinned Morton, Simmons pinned Vinny Vegas, Brian Pillman pinned Scotty Flamingo, Rhodes pinned Jack, Windham drew Austin, Williams and Gordy beat Zank and Bagwell, Sting and Nikita Koloff beat Anderson and Eaton, and Rude pinned Steamboat in a no DQ match. June 21st in Tallahassee drew 1,500 as Super Invader pinned Bagwell, Bad pinned Flamingo in a non-title, Terry Taylor and Greg Valentine beat Freebirds in a non-title, Rhodes pinned Morton, Williams and Gordy beat Pillman and Zank, Simmons pinned Eaton and Sting, and Steamboat beat Rude and Austin. Mr. Hughes is bleaching his hair and beard blonde and coming back with a new gimmick and a push. June 5th in Rock Hill, South Carolina before 2,165 saw Bad pin Flamingo 1/4 of 1 star. Invader pinned Zank -3 stars. Larry Zbyszko pinned Bagwell 1/2 of 1 star. Pillman pinned Morton 1 star, Steiners beat Taylor and Valentine 2 stars. Windham pinned Eden 1 star and Sting and Steamboat and Koloff beat Rude and Anderson and Austin 3 stars. June 6th in Greenwood, South Carolina drew 1,140 as Bad and Bagwell beat Morton and Flamingo 1 3/4 stars. Invader pinned Zank -3 stars, Windham pinned Valentine 1 1/2 star, Koloff pinned Zbyszko 1 star, Sting and Steamboat beat Rude and Austin 2 stars, Steiners beat Eaton and Anderson 2 stars. WWF. The WBF pay-per-view did an estimated 0.02% buy rate, about 3,000 buys nationally, which is shockingly weak considering how much effort was put into promoting the product, since that was in the same range as Herb Abrams' Beach Brawl pay-per-view last year, and consider the difference and promotional capabilities and exposure between the two organizations, not to mention the WBF was in 3 times the number of potential homes. Nassau Coliseum and the Spectrum in Philadelphia continue to be the hottest drawing arenas for WWF. While crowds are lackluster nationally thus far since WrestleMania, only 5 shows in this country and drawn 6,000 paid, 2 each at Nassau and the Spectrum. Nassau did a gate in excess of $160,000 on June 19, just under $11,000 paid, while the Spectrum did in the $115,000 range on June 20th, $7,800 paid, for Ric Flair vs. Randy Savage. Both crowds were within a few hundred of almost the exact same gates the previous month for Ultimate Warrior vs. Papa Shango. Nassau Coliseum saw Kerry Von Erich over Brooklyn Brawler. Nails beat Virgil. Nails got a lot of heat, and they had refs and road agents run from him to try and get him over as a monster. Bushwhackers beat Double Trouble. Val and Tony Puccio, formerly the Undertakers from UQ, who are probably working some dates as a settlements, since they originally had trademarked the Undertaker nay. Undertaker pinned Berserker in a hot match. British Bulldog pinned Repo Man. Natural Disasters beat Money Incorporated via walkout countout, and Randy Savage beat Ric Flair via DQ on a reverse decision. One of the reasons for the big gate on a rainy night was that the New York Daily News wrestling column earlier in the week said that Flair would be regaining the title at the Coliseum, so lots of folks thought it was a must-see house show. Dr. George Zahorian is going to be working and speaking to teenagers on the harmful effects of steroids, the most harmful of which is that if you are caught distributing them, you can wind up in jail. Zahorian has also said he's going to tell all about his involvement in either a book or in magazine articles. Bob Backlund reportedly turned down the WWF's offer. June 20th in Philadelphia saw Von Erich beat Brawler. Nails beat Virgil. Bushwhackers beat Double Trouble. Flair beat Savage via count out. Bulldog beat Repo Man. Natural Disasters beat Money Incorporated via count out, and Undertaker pinned Berserker. June 21st in Springfield, Massachusetts drew 2,500 as Virgil pinned Brawler 1/4 of 1 star. Nails pinned Von Erich in 3/10 of a total squash dud. Bulldog pinned Repo Man dud. Bret Hart pinned Shawn Michaels 4 stars. Bushwhackers beat Double Trouble 1/2 of 1 star. Natural Disasters beat Money Incorporated via countout 2 stars, and Warrior pinned Shango in 7 minutes. They still do the voodoo spot. 1 star. June 20th in Indianapolis drew 2,500 as Tito Santana pinned Skinner. Rick Martel beat Tatanka via countout. Crush made Kato submit. Legion of Doom Animal pinned Blake Beverly. Owen Hart and Coco were beat Nasty Boys via DQ. Bret Hart pinned Michaels, by far the best match. And Warrior pinned Shango. Star ratings for the June 12th show at the Los Angeles Sports Arena saw Tornado over Kato -1 star. Crush over Skinner -4 stars. Legion of Doom beat Beverly Brothers 2 stars. Hart pinned Michaels 5 stars. High Energy beat Nasty Boys via DQ 1 3/4 stars. Mountie over Slaughter via countout -3 stars, and Warrior over Shango dud.